Welcome back to another far-reaching conversation.
Glad to be back.
Today, we're looking at some FAR excerpts all about publicizing contract opportunities. We'll
Yeah.
break it down so, the core requirements and any interesting exceptions. This is especially useful if you're involved in government contracting,
Yeah.
either as a contractor or working within a government agency.
Yeah, a good grasp of these rules can really make a difference in how you navigate this world.
Okay, so to kick things off, let's talk about FAR 5, publicizing contract actions. What's the goal here? What problem are these rules trying to solve?
Well, in a nutshell, FAR Part 5 is all about ensuring a level playing field in government contracting. It aims to prevent backroom deals and promote transparency, so everyone has a fair shot at winning contracts.
So it's about making sure the process is open and competitive.
Precisely. And that starts with making sure everyone knows about the opportunities that are out there. We wouldn't want only a select few to be aware of potential contracts, right?
Right, that makes sense. So how does FAR Part 5 actually achieve this transparency? What are some of the mechanisms it uses?
Well, FAR Part 5 lays out specific methods for how agencies need to spread the word about upcoming contracts. It's more than just posting a notice on a bulletin board these days.
So tell me, what does disseminating these opportunities actually look like in practice?
FAR 5.101 is where you'll find the nitty-gritty on that. It mandates using the government point of entry, also known as GPE, which is essentially sam.gov, for any contract over $25,000. It's a centralized hub for all things government contracting.
So sam.gov is kind of like the go-to website for anyone interested in government contracting.
Exactly. And even for those smaller contracts under $25,000, there are specific requirements for posting notices. The point is to ensure consistent and readily accessible information for everyone.
Okay, so we've got sam.gov as a central platform. Are there any other ways agencies can publicize these opportunities?
Absolutely. FAR 5.101 also allows for things like press releases or working with trade associations to get the word out. The key is to reach the widest possible audience of potential bidders.
So it sounds like FAR Part 5 encourages a multi-pronged approach to dissemination.
Yes, it's not just about one method. It's about casting a wide net and using different channels to ensure maximum visibility.
Now, I'm curious, how detailed do these announcements get? I mean, did they post the entire contract online for everyone to see?
Not quite, but they do provide what's called a synopsis, which is a concise summary of the contract opportunity.
So it's like a preview or a sneak peek at what the contract entails.
Yes, exactly. And FAR 5.207 gets into the specifics of what needs to be included in these synopses. It's more than just a basic overview. They have to outline things like sustainability requirements, whether the contract is subject to specific trade agreements, and even the rationale for choosing a non-competitive approach if that's the case.
Wait, they have to publicly explain why they're not opening a contract to competition?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It is. Transparency is paramount, remember. They need to justify their decisions and make it clear why a particular approach is in the government's best interest.
That makes sense. It keeps everything above board. So these synopses sound pretty comprehensive. But I'm guessing there are always exceptions to the rules, right?
You guessed it. FAR wouldn't be FAR without its exceptions. FAR 5.202 outlines situations where agencies don't have to publish a synopsis.
So tell me, when might an agency bypass this synopsis requirement? What are some of those exceptions?
Well, some are pretty straightforward. For example, if you're dealing with perishable goods, you might not have time to go through the full synopsis process.
Right. You can't exactly wait weeks for bids to come in if you're buying bananas.
Exactly. Another example is unsolicited research proposals that present truly unique concepts. These often don't fit neatly into predefined categories. So a synopsis might not be the most effective way to solicit bids.
So in those cases, the agency has some flexibility in how it publicizes the opportunity.
Yes. The key is that they still need to document their justification for bypassing the synopsis process, maintaining that commitment to transparency we talked about.
So even with exceptions, there's always a paper trail.
Always. Accountability is crucial throughout the entire contracting process.
This has been really helpful in understanding how agencies make these opportunities known. Now, what about when a contract is actually awarded? How does FAR handle that part of the process?
Well, once a contract is awarded, FAR 5.301 mandates that awards over $25,000 generally need to be posted publicly as well. Transparency continues even after the decision is made.
So everyone can see who won and for how much.
Yes, it's all public information, but here's where it gets a little interesting. For awards exceeding $4.5 million, there's a specific deadline. They need to be announced by 5 p.m. Washington, D.C. time on the day of the award.
Why the specific time and location? Is there some big ceremony?
Not quite a ceremony, but it does highlight how FAR emphasizes timeliness and consistency. It ensures a standardized process across all agencies.
Okay, I'll admit that one is a bit of a head-scratcher, but I appreciate the level of detail FAR puts into these regulations.
It's all about ensuring a fair and transparent process, even down to the minute details.
Now, before we move on, I'm curious about something you mentioned earlier, multi-agency contracts. What are those exactly, and how do they fit into this whole publicizing process?
Multi-agency contracts are contracts that can be used by multiple government agencies. They're sort of like pre-approved agreements that agencies can leverage for common goods or services.
So it's like a one-stop shop for certain types of contract.
You could say that. And FAR 5.601 points us to a handy resource, Contractdirectory.gov, the government-wide database of contracts. It's a centralized repository where you can find information on these multi-agency contracts.
So if I'm an agency looking for a specific service, I can check this database to see if there's already an existing contract I can use, instead of going through the whole process of soliciting bids myself.
Exactly. It can be a real time saver, and it promotes efficiency across the government. And on the flip side, if you're a business, being listed in this database can open up a lot of potential opportunities.
So it's a win-win for both agencies and contractors.
Absolutely. It streamlines the process, saves time and resources, and ultimately benefits everyone involved.
This is all incredibly helpful in understanding the mechanisms behind publicizing these contract opportunities. And I'm wondering, what are some of the key takeaways for our listeners?
Yeah.
Especially those new to this whole world of government contracting. What should they be paying attention to?
I'd say the biggest takeaway is that information is readily available if you know where to look. FAR Part 5 provides a clear roadmap for finding and understanding those opportunities.
That's about doing your homework and familiarizing yourself with the resources out there.
Exactly. And remember, understanding the requirements and exceptions can give you a real competitive edge. It's not just about knowing the rules, it's about knowing how to use them strategically.
Okay, that's great advice. Now, I know you have some more insights on this topic, so let's keep going and explore some more nuances of FAR Part 5.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Knowing how to leverage the information in FAR Part 5 can be a game changer.
Absolutely. Okay, so before we were talking about how FAR Part 5 makes the contracting process more transparent. But transparency is only valuable if people can actually access and understand the information right. So let's zoom out a bit. How does FAR Part 5 impact the overall landscape of government contracting?
That's a great question. I think one of the biggest impacts is that it helps to level the playing field for businesses of all sizes by making opportunities more visible. Part 5 opens doors for small businesses, startups, even individual contractors who might not have had the same access to information in the past.
So it's not just the big corporations dominating the government contracting space anymore.
No, not at all. In fact, the government has set specific goals for awarding contracts to small businesses. And FAR Part 5 helps facilitate that. It's all about promoting competition and ensuring a diverse range of businesses have a shot at working with the government.
That's fantastic. I imagine that also encourages innovation and brings fresh perspectives into the mix.
Precisely. And it's not just about the economic benefits either. This increased transparency also strengthens accountability in government spending. When the process is open and everyone can see how decisions are made, it reduces the risk of favoritism, corruption, and waste.
So it's not just about who wins the contract. It's about ensuring the entire process is above board and accountable to the public.
Exactly. That's what builds trust in the system. And that trust is crucial for both the government and the businesses involved.
Now, I can't help but wonder, in today's world of information overload, do you think these rules actually make a difference? I mean, sure, the information is out there.
Yeah.
But is anyone actually paying attention to all these synopses and announcements?
That's a valid concern. But I do believe they make a difference. While it's true, we're bombarded with information constantly. There's a specific audience that actively seeks out this kind of information. Businesses that specialize in government contracting, procurement professionals, industry analysts, they're all tuned in to these channels and looking for opportunities. It's like a specialized network where everyone speaks the language of FAR.
So it's like a dedicated community within the larger information landscape.
Yes, exactly. And within that community, these rules are essential. They provide a shared understanding of how the process works and create a more predictable and stable environment for everyone.
Okay, so we've talked about leveling the playing field,
Yeah.
promoting transparency, and even this idea of a specialized audience. Are there any other significant takeaways from our exploration of FAR Part 5?
I think it's crucial to remember that FAR is a living document. It's constantly evolving. As technology changes and the government's needs shift, these rules will be updated and refined.
So it's not a one-time read. It's an ongoing process of staying informed and adapting to changes.
Absolutely. Anyone involved in government contracting needs to stay up to date on the latest interpretations of FAR. It's a dynamic field. And that's part of what makes it so challenging and rewarding. There's always something new to learn.
Well said. So let's bring it back to our listener. They've got this stack of FAR excerpts. They've listened to our breakdown. What's the one key message they should walk away with today?
I think the most important message is that knowledge is power, especially in the world of government contracting. FAR Part 5 empowers you with the information you need to navigate this complex landscape. By understanding these rules, you can level up your game, whether you're a business seeking opportunities or a government agency looking to run a fair and efficient contracting process.
So it's about embracing the complexity and recognizing that FAR Part 5 is ultimately a tool to help everyone succeed.
Exactly. It's not about memorizing every single rule. It's about understanding the underlying principles and using that knowledge to your advantage.
Okay, that's a great takeaway. And before we wrap up, I always like to leave our listeners with something to ponder. So considering all these requirements for publicizing contract opportunities, do you think the system as it's designed makes it easy or difficult for people to find and understand this information?
That's a really thought-provoking question. I
Yeah.
think the answer is it depends. The information is certainly out there, and FAR Part 5 gives you a framework for where to find it. But the sheer volume of information can be overwhelming, and the language can be dense at times.
It's definitely not light reading. Sometimes you need a decoder ring just to figure out all the acronyms.
Exactly. So while the system strives for transparency, there's definitely a learning curve. It takes time and effort to really grasp the nuances of government contracting, but with a little patience and persistence, anyone can learn to navigate this world and potentially unlock some incredible opportunities.
So it's a challenge, but a worthwhile one.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes it so interesting. There's always something new to discover, a new challenge to tackle. It's a dynamic field that keeps you on your toes.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our far-reaching conversation for today. We've explored the ins and outs of publicizing contract opportunities, uncovered some fascinating details in FAR Part 5, and hopefully equipped our listener with a solid understanding of this crucial aspect of government contracting. Remember, if you find these podcasts helpful, then reach FAR for that subscribe button. And be sure to join us next time as we delve into another corner of the FAR universe. Until then, happy contracting.